So change is inevitable, but the ways it can enter our lives are many. And pretty much every major transit can trigger a process of change that would influence your life greatly. I already made a video about receiving a hard aspect from Pluto and surviving it. And that can feel brutal, but is definitely leading to changes. Then a hard aspect from Neptune may introduce changes in more subtle ways, so that first you go through it and then you, in retrospect, notice just how profound it actually was. Saturn transit can feel like it is now necessary to restructure something in your life, and that it will also be difficult, but nothing compares to how electric and radical Uranian change presents itself. Uranus is the planet of disruption, of liberation, and also of quantum leaps into the future. If Uranus is making a conjunction or one of the hard aspects to one of the personal planets or points in your natal chart, the change is not only inevitable, it will shock you. It will come out of nowhere. It will be something outrageous, something you wouldn't have thought was possible in your life. Positive or negative, like any other outer planet, Uranus is not really about good or bad. What it is about kicking you or pushing you out of complacency, out of, wilting, languishing, becoming dull, essentially. The impulse may come from a change in circumstances or from a radical shift in how you perceive things or react to something, or from a changed behavior of someone who is very important in your life. I am Nadia, the astrologer, for people who do not believe in astrology but know how to enjoy it. And in this video today, I am telling you about how a hard aspect or a conjunction from Uranus may manifest as in your life, what scenarios there are, and how to approach it in the best possible manner. And since I just realized that Uranus transits and very hard aspects were actually very beneficial for me personally in my life, let me quickly take you through what they did to me. So when Uranus was squaring my sun in 2013, 2014, I started working as an astrologer. And if you knew me back then, you'd know how extremely radical that was for me. I could only do this because everything around me was basically falling apart. When that same Uranus was squaring my natal Mercury, I realized I hated the way I was practicing astrology, and I changed the way I did it suddenly, radically, and with almost no flexibility, and never regretted it, by the way. When Uranus entered my 7th house of partnerships in 2020, I, who by that time was single for almost 10 years and grew very, very comfortable with it and sort of stuck, got together with my husband, who just announced that we were now a couple. And since I was so overwhelmed with other things in my life, I just didn't protest. And it is a surprisingly great relationship. Uranus is squaring my moon now, moon being the celestial body of home and base. And it started doing that in 2024. And it was in 2024 that we realized we need more space. And so we expanded our living arrangements by starting to rent not just one apartment, but two on top of the other. And the process was very stressful, but as a result, I now have this, not just a room of one's own, but a really big room to work and have guests in and basically chill as well. But even though all of this Uranian change did me good, it's always a disruption. There's always some discomfort. You are either brought to this place where it is unbearable and you just have to make a radical choice, or this choice is made for you, and then even if in the long term it's beneficial, in the moment when it is happening, it is disruptive, it is destabilizing, it is not your comfort zone. I cannot stress this enough. You cannot be in a comfort zone during this transit. Either your comfort zone is just gone, or you exited yourself, and then even if this was your choice and you wanted to make it, while you are making it, you cannot be comfortable. But let's take a couple of steps back and talk about Uranus as a planet in astrology. It was discovered in 1781 at the time of the first industrial revolution, which revolutions and also technical progress are Uranian topics. And in line with that, it was the first planet to be discovered with the use of a telescope. It takes 80 years to orbit the sun, so divided by 12 signs, it spends almost exactly 7 years in each sign, and it is now finishing its 7-year-long stretch in Taurus and will be moving into Gemini in 2025. So how do you know if you are going through an important Uranus transit? Well, the most important, the most influential, the strongest Uranian aspect is conjunction. It is when Uranus is passing through the exact same point on the zodiac circle as something in your natal chart, well, something important like Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Ascendant, maybe a couple of other influential spots. And if you know your natal chart, and if you know that you have something in the final degrees of Taurus and in the first degrees of Gemini, then judging from 2025, this video is super relevant because you're either already going through a Uranian transit or you're about to enter it. The other very influential, very strong aspects would be opposition and a square. These aspects are called hard because they create pressure, conflict that cannot be ignored. They are pushing you towards change. So again, if you know your natal chart and if there is something very important in the final degrees of Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, or in the very first degrees of Virgo, Sagittarius, or Pisces, this also applies to you. You're either going through this hard aspect or you're about to start receiving it second half of summer. If you do not know your natal chart, that's okay. Even your date of birth, your birthday, can tell us where on the zodiacal circle your sun is. And if you were born on this date, then this video is also super relevant because it means that you are either going through the Uranian transit already or you are about to within a year or two. And Sun is governing our life story, but also how we see ourselves, what kind of main characters we are in our story. So a Uranian transit would mean an unexpected plot twist in your biography or a real character change. So my favorite way to look at Uranian transits is this. We all have a tendency to fall into some habitual way of doing things, behaving, and being predictable. And since other people are observing us, they learn what to expect from us, and they tend to stay with people whose predictability suits them. And then even when the things we were doing stop serving us, there is still so much, the temptation is very high to keep doing it because A, we already know how to do it, and B, this is what the other people expect of us, and C, they may even praise us for doing the thing that they want us to do. So even if some of the predictable ways of acting and behaving stopped serving us, it's still very difficult to make the switch because we have to first identify those ways that stopped serving us, then come up with some new ideas and who has time for that, but also deal with the disappointment of others. And this is usually the time when Uranus steps in and pushes us out of our comfort zone. And its function is to make sure we do not remain stuck in the ways that don't serve us anymore. And if you are sensitive, then the way it may feel is kind of like Uranus is showing you what your real, authentic future may look like if you follow your own true path. But there's a catch. The catch is that it's showing it not to your conscious mind. So your conscious mind stays oblivious to that, but to your unconsciousness, to your subconscious. So that on a conscious level, you have no clue about what's going on. It's as if everything is as it normally is. But then your subconsciousness, which holds the key to your life energy, to your libido, knows which things do not belong to your authentic future. And it will just flat out refuse to provide this outdated thing with your life energy. So you may end up in a situation where a thing that was probably not the most exciting thing in your life, but that you could do reliably for a while, you suddenly just for the life of you cannot make yourself do. You may make an effort and try to approach this thing, but it's almost like three dementors are sucking the life energy and joy out of you. If something like this happens when Uranus is making a hard aspect to something important in your natal chart, it means that this thing does not belong to your authentic future and that you should start making plans on how to get rid of it. Because if you don't, you will either be completely depleted by those life-sucking things, or you will explode, you will snap and destroy this thing anyway, just in a less planned, rational, constructive manner. Now, what that thing that needs to change is, and just how radical this change is going to be, depends on many factors, like what's going on in your life, or what is this aspect to which point in your natal chart, which houses are affected, etc. If it's a hard aspect to your sun, it can be about almost anything, because sun is, like I said, the life story, right? So like it can be your identity, very logical with the sun, but it can be anything if this thing is important to your plot. A profession, a community, a relationship, where you live, the topic you're an expert on, political affiliations, I don't know, a hobby. And yes, sometimes the thing that has become old and dull, you need to get rid of it completely. But sometimes you can identify the aspects of that thing that became gray, dull, dusty, stifling, and get rid of those aspects and then invest the released energy to nurture the living and breathing aspects of that thing to make it more contemporary. Now, in the scenario I just described, the initiator of the change was you. You felt like you cannot go on like before, that you need a change. You were suffocating. But sometimes the agent of change is another person who doesn't do what you want or expect them to do. I love my husband. I loved him before we got together even, but when he announced that we were a couple, I had no place on my plate for a whole relationship. I was spread so thin, I was without any relationship, worried for myself. And I went along with it, and it was extremely irritating, but worth it. It can be something more negative, absolutely. But if you are receiving a hard aspect from Uranus, and then an important person in your life starts behaving in a manner that is unreliable or outrageous, stupid, destructive, it's best to take this as an example and to take the energy of your irritation, let's say, and use it to allow yourself something that you for some reason did not allow yourself to do. If someone unruly is making you angry to the point where you want to say, well, I could also do whatever, you wouldn't like that, right? This is the sign for you to maybe think about why you're not doing this yet, and maybe the reasons for you to not do it are not as important anymore, not as relevant as you thought they were. So these unruly Uranian people, when you are receiving a hard aspect from Uranus, are either calling on you to join them on an adventure, or they are poking you so you stop limiting yourself as hard as you probably are limiting yourself. And yes, a hard aspect from Uranus may coincide with a traumatic event. It doesn't happen as often as with a hard aspect from Pluto. But Uranus is disruptive. And if your mental health depends heavily on some like stable, predictable environment, and Uranus disturbs that or even destroys that, then yes, your mental health can suffer. However, this Uranian traumatic event may have positive potential. So in the moment when it is lived, it may be experienced as a total breakdown, but it's a breakdown that can lead to a breakthrough. So once you are past the stage of shock and shame and grief, you almost always reach the stage where you experience this as a sort of a liberation. So how do you deal with a hard aspect from Uranus? Rule number one, if you don't feel it, don't force it. If you are enjoying your life, if everything is going fine, if you are genuinely content and optimistic, do not try to feel really hard into like whether something disruptive is going on in your life. Don't try to create this effect artificially. It's impossible to not change when it is truly happening. So don't imitate it. However, there is a catch. So the catch is rule number 2. It may evade your conscious mind. It may be actually affecting you actively and changing your life. And you may be actually actively involved in something that is changing your life right now. And on a conscious level, you may be absolutely sure that nothing like that is going on and everything is going according to plan. It's a weird thing that only Uranus can do. So it is the planet of the unexpected. And even if you are an astrologer and a Uranus aspect is approaching and you are trying to expect the unexpected, anything that you try to expect is by definition expected, not unexpected. You may be absolutely sure that you have considered everything and everything is going according to plan, but at the same time you are involved in some like side project that will eventually revolutionize your life. I don't know how it works. Uranus is also good at dissociating, so maybe that's that. But the point is that sometimes you may only notice that you have been working on a Uranus project only after this project has become an integral part of your life. Now, if something has become this dreaded, dull, gray, boring, life-sucking thing, whatever it is, start moving away from it in any way you can. Some need to do it abruptly like that. Some need to build systems that will allow them to migrate to something new. Whatever works for you, just don't get stuck there. Rule number 4. If during a Uranus transit an unruly person disturbs your life or irritates you, allow it. Either go with them on an adventure or use the energy of irritation to start allowing yourself more and not be so damn predictable. Rule number 5, work with changes, not against them. Now, To me, it seems like a very clear rule, but for some reason, when I told this to my clients, very often they would be very confused. So apparently it's not as clear as I think it is. What I mean by that is that if circumstances change, then try approaching them as an opportunity. An opportunity that is maybe making your life temporarily more chaotic and stressful and, I don't know, demanding, but an opportunity nevertheless. Don't spend all of your energy trying to bring things back to the way they were. This will not happen. Better invest in a new, different future. Well, that's it for Uranus transit. It's always fun to watch people going through them because they often make unpredictable choices, which make for exciting stories. And also, if they do this transit right, they tend to scandalize the more rigid, conservative people in their lives, and this is also fun. Life would be terribly boring if we didn't have to go through some of those transits from time to time. If you care to share your own story with Uranus transit, come talk to me in the comments. But otherwise, press the like button and subscribe to also surely get the other videos I will be posting, and see you in the next videos.